There's a neutrophil and a lymphocyte and a platelet and all the little red blood cells or erythrocytes. That's just showing you a platelet over to the side, just a concept. Look at that, just kind of a scanning electron micrograph 3,500 times, kind of giving you an idea of a white blood cell and so forth. This kind of. All right, plasma. So much about plasma right now. No big deal with plasma. You know, like we teach in 2401, backing up. See, in 2401, I go ahead and say, you'll learn this in 2402. In 2402, I said, well, you learn this in 2401. Remember going back in 2401? So it's kind of a two-edged sword. We don't say as much going back from this one to the other one as we do mentioning things and the other one coming to this one. All right? But going back, as far as the plasma, in 2401 we said that, okay, blood is a connective tissue with a liquid matrix. And the liquid matrix is the plasma. That is the liquid matrix of the blood. Us blues, okay. And I've got a girl that's really, a woman that's really interesting to have in class right now in 2401. She's an EMT. I think I mentioned her to you. Her name's Susie. Oh man, and if you know, real life experiences. In the life flight stuff. She works with the life flight group out at her own hospital, and it's really interesting some of the stuff she comes across. I mean, real interesting. Some of the stuff she sees every week. You know, really, it's amazing. All right, but right here, and a lot of it is heart attacks, chest pains, a lot of that kind of stuff, other than drunk drivers running into somebody. All right, but anyway, right here, everybody, embryonic to fetal periods of the blood, red blood, have no clear cut. Okay, embryonic and fetal period. Remember the mesenchyme? Remember the liver? Remember the spleen? You remember all this? You remember that? How all those things come into play in the formation of blood. And who's the main player in blood cell formation in us? Bone marrow. Don't ever forget that one. The bone marrow. That's the main player in us, is formation of blood. And we'll talk about anemias. Aplastic anemia is where the bone marrow shuts down. Typical and pernicious anemia is where there's a lack of absorption of vitamin B12, which is necessary in the production of the DNA for the blood. So we'll get into those things later. But embryonic and fetal periods have no clear, and they don't. We mentioned this production, yolk sac, remember? Extraembryonic mesoderm of the yolk sac, the liver, the spleen, thymus gland, lymph nodes, and bone marrow all participate. And of course, the big player later on, obviously, is the bone marrow. Don't ever forget that now. Because I'll ask you that on the final exam as a general question. You know, just a general knowledge question, that the bone marrow, where's blood produced in me and you? By the bone marrow. And we'll talk about how many cells are cranked out. It's really interesting, too, how our liver destroys worn out blood cells and what happens to the globin part, what happens to the heme part, how it's taken care of by our system. That's kind of an interesting little story within itself to see how everything goes. You know, kind of an interesting deal. All right, now right here, various times. Okay, now right here. In the adult, production of blood cells is in the red marrow of the sternum. I'll give you a picture of this. Primarily in the red marrow of the ribs, the sternum. You remember the sternum from 2401? There was the manubrium, the gladiolus, the xiphoid or xiphoid process. The sternum produces blood. All right, the pelvis. In other words, the os coxa. Now, y'all don't remember this, but there's another name for the os coxa. And you might, the doctor, if you work for an ortho, he might use this term, the innominate. Remember that term, innominate? Some of you have heard it, but you might not remember. The innominate bone, that is for one of the os coxa, which is made up of the ilium, the pubis, and the ischium. Remember the os coxa? All right, the proximal end, and that'll say the proximal end of the femur. Proximal end of the femur is very important, and the humerus, and so forth. And it's also in the adult production, also a certain amount of it is lymphoid tissue, lymph tissue. Most of it in bone marrow, though. But there are some key areas. The next slide, though, this is going to abbreviated scheme of hemopoiesis. Okay, now let me get through this part right here. The stem cells are in the red bone, and we're going to talk about this. Now, you're going to need. Now, here's what you're going to need, everybody. This is what you're going to need right here. Some part of your note material. You have it, Adrian? You have this one? You're going to need this one because I'm going to tell you some things I asked off this in a minute. I'm talking about this part right here, the top part. It says page 3, blood. You got that one?